Mark Zuckerberg keeps killing friendship. Today, he and big tech are pushing us to be friends with AI. They claim it'll help us feel less alone. But I think this push is just the latest in a multi-decade assault on all human relationships. And it started long before AI. Now, Lord Zuckerberg, he took our human friendships and ground them down to a fine pulp. He made us hate the people we actually know and love. And now he's manufacturing synthetic friends so he can monetize that. But this future that he and big tech have imagined, it doesn't have to be the reality we live in. So stick around for a brief history of how we got here and some ideas for a better future where tech actually supports human relationships. Welcome to Life with Machines. I'm Baratunde Thurston, and I'm on a mission to help us all live well with tech and not just endure it. Today, we're gonna save friendship from the tech bros. I wanna tell you a story. I'm in my first real job after college, and my boss corners me in the break room and says to me, "How come you haven't accepted my friend request?" In front of other people. Now, my inner voice was like, "'Cause we ain't friends. You literally pay me to be here." But my outer voice was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even know you sent that in. You know, I get so many friend requests. I must be like backlogged. I probably just missed yours. I'll get back to you right away." And then I'm pretty sure I quit that job the next day. Now, back where I'm from, in the 1900s, friendship existed on more of a wide-ranging and nuanced spectrum. Your teacher, coworker, boss, acquaintance, kindergarten classmate, and even family members weren't necessarily friends, but they weren't not friends either. Then Facebook came along and brought the age of social media into full effect. And Mark Zuckerberg treated friendship as if it was just a binary switch in a machine. On or off, friend or not, 1 or 0. And we would stress so hard over this choice of who to friend on Facebook. Now, this level of stress was such a big deal, it was literally on the news.
To friend or not to friend, it's a digital dilemma when a student sends the request to a teacher on Facebook. A possible predicament for educators, administrators, students, and parents.
And that was the simpler time. I had my little profile and I'd go visit your little profile and maybe I'd leave a cute little note on your little wall, but it wasn't enough for Zuck. He and his company needed us to spend more time, to give more of ourselves to their platform. And they didn't much care what we were doing. They certainly didn't care if it made us feel good or not. They just needed this non-stop stream of stickiness. And now that I've said that out loud, I realize that sounds nasty as hell, but hey, the result was nasty as hell because they were pursuing this term that has come to change our entire relationship with technology and with each other, called engagement. Thus was born the Newsfeed, a fire hose of friend activity. Mary became friends with Brian, and Mark liked Roberta's post, and we had all these previously subtle, private interactions put on public blast, into public view. And users, previously called human beings, we hated it. We had shown up to see updates from our friends, and the newsfeed buried that in a mountain of random activity. But we were also starting to get hooked. It was as if a car wreck and a booger had an attention-hoarding baby. Terrible, yes, but also kind of irresistible. And so, click, 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 and pretty soon you've lost a day of your life. And in the face of this, Zuck was his usual sympathetic human self. Here's just a little pro tip if you're new to human relationships, because Mark Zuckerberg murdered them. When someone tells you to be calm and you're not yelling, they're gaslighting you. Now, this pursuit of engagement and forced publicity for relationships that used to be more private, that changed how everything worked. Literally how society worked. And it turned all of us from regular human beings into broadcasters. Friendship itself became a performance, and we got rewarded with likes and shares and comments, each notification giving us that sweet, sweet dopamine hit. So people started sharing more, basically sharing everything, even and especially weird, conspiratorial, inflammatory things. Stuff we might just share with people who knew us, people who had consented to hear our particular brand of crazy, or things that we used to keep to ourselves. So social media, led by Zuck, gave everyone a public hot mic and a community, and that had some consequences. I remember back in the day, it took effort to be a white supremacist. You had to subscribe to a weird grease-stained zine that would show up in your grandma's basement. You had to live a lonely existence in the hope that if and when you did share one of your wackadoodle ideas with someone you didn't know, that they wouldn't ostracize you the way you should have been. But Zuck, he turned us all into our racist uncle. And if you don't have a racist uncle, first of all, you do. But if you don't know about your racist uncle, I suggest you check out the Angry Racist Uncle meme generator. Now, that's not an ad supporting this channel. That is a public service announcement from me supporting you with something fun to do. Now, the algorithm that Facebook launched at us in the newsfeed, it was basically AI 1.0. And it was designed to keep us enraged and in a negative cycle of emotions. So we started to hate the people we had come onto the platform to be in touch with. We started to hate our actual friends, our family, and that's another blow landed against friendship. But Lord Zuck, he don't care. Lord Zuck don't give up. You autocomplete that one. He even testified in front of Congress that the friend part has gone down quite a bit. Wow. The whole point of Facebook was for us to keep in touch with our friends. And here goes the owner, the creator, testifying. What's friendship got to do with it? So let's recap. Phase 1, flatten the definition of friend and force all interactions online for maximum surveillance. Phase 2, introduce AI-powered algorithms to ramp up division and discord so we hate each other. And now we're in phase 3. Use AI to exploit the completely mysterious loneliness epidemic that has somehow emerged in our society. Now that we're friendless, Zuck and the Tech Bros, not a bad name for a terrible band, they got a solution for you. AI friends.
There's the stat that I always think is crazy. The average American, I think, has fewer than 3 friends. And the average person has demand for 15 friends or something.
You see that little clip right there? It reveals an entire worldview. First, Zuck thinks he has 3 whole friends. I'm taking the under on that. More important, Zuck sees the explosion of loneliness as a simple supply and demand mismatch problem. You see, demand for friends exceeds its supply. Right there, I just want to know, what's your whole friend networking business been up to for the past 20 years, bro? Truth is, they haven't ever really been in the business of supporting friendship. Human relationships was just the raw material they needed to power an ever-growing business built on capturing and monetizing our attention. In 2012, they buy Instagram for $1 billion to grab more of that attention and mine more of us. In 2021, they changed the name of the whole company to Meta to try to, I don't know, throw us off the scent. But we're smarter than that. They just kept growing, bigger and farther away from that initial mission and commitment to keep us in touch with our friends. That leads me to bring in the story of a friend to this discussion right now. Rich Roll, great human being. You might know him from his books, his show, his healthy life and commitment to a good, healthy future. I spoke to Rich on Life with Machines. He helped us get started. Thanks, by the way. I spoke to him on the show because he had an experience getting deepfaked on Instagram.
My likeness and voice and all of that was misappropriated. It was misappropriated for ill-gotten gains. You know, it's like not cool.
And he responded to it in a way that most of us don't have the resources to, because he's Rich Roll. He's kind of a big deal. The man has a staff. He sent this toward Meta, asked them to take down this obviously fake monetized piece of content, and they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it because they no longer need Rich, the human. They don't need you or me, the humans. We've largely done our job for them. We lured real people onto the platform so that the platform and its owners can study us and poke and prod at us and find out how we tick and what makes us go up or go down. And now they can discard the actual us because they got our data, and they can invest in the deepfake versions of people, because deepfake people, they don't sleep. They don't unionize. They don't complain to the FCC or the SEC or the ABC or any other combination of letters. But the activity on the platform continues, and it creates engagement, and money. So, we're entering this world where our platforms are full of AI bots and AI versions of their formerly human users. Zuck don't need us anymore, and eventually the whole platform's just gonna be a bunch of bots interacting with themselves, trained involuntarily by us. I remember talking to my friend Matt Kleinman. We used to work together at The Onion, and he was joking, not joking, about us needing an internet just for people.
What if we just ditched this internet, left it to the bots? They can have their own internet for all they want. And if anybody wants to like trawl in there with the bots, you can play and get dirty all day. But we need to have an internet that's for humans only.
Now we're in a deeper conversation about AI friends. And it's not just chatbots, right? It's wearables, it's rings and watches and pendants and glasses and eventually implants. It's about a total surveillance apparatus that understands our health, our emotions, our finances, and all of that is powering some lucrative business of friendship as a service. And so the stock price soars. That is Lord Zuckerberg's ideal future. Robots talking to robots, pushing humans to the margins, and our minds and hearts past the breaking point. And when you look around at the alternative big social platforms, to me, they don't feel like much of an alternative at all. You just can't help it. That's okay. Twitter. What happened to you? It's all far-right noise, explicitly embraced misinformation, bots on bots on bots on bots, ruled by an AI named Mecha Hitler. This is our timeline? Seriously? TikTok? Brain rot personified. They're laying off content moderators all over the world, replacing them with AI. And Truth Social, well, truth be told, the less I say about that, the better. So yeah, social media as it stands is totally effed. Okay, mostly effed. To be honest, Reddit is still kind of dope and growing, and I'm here for it. But I'm more excited about new ways to approach human connection in this age of AI. What if we could use this moment to design social connectivity through tech that didn't, wait for it, rip society to shreds? Would you be down for that? Then let's go. Facebook, Instagram, Meta, TikTok, all of these big platforms are very reluctant to hold their users accountable, in part because they don't want to be held accountable themselves to anybody but their shareholders. But there's other ways. There's New Public, an organization that creates what they call digital public spaces. I actually spoke with them a few years back on my How to Citizen podcast, which you should definitely check out. Those archives are fire. But recently, New Public took on the challenge of local neighborhood-based platforms. You know, the kind that can be very challenging. Their names rhyme with words like Lex Lore. They make you terrified and want to call in the Navy SEALs every time you see someone unfamiliar in your Ring camera. So New Public has launched a neighborhood-based social platform called Roundabout. And there's some really interesting principles behind it. Instead of an infinite scrolling feed, evil, information is organized into channels, shared events, even kind of long-term evergreen guides that help new neighbors or tenants move in. Every community is managed and kind of stewarded by humans. Sometimes they're existing local organizers. Their job is to set norms and moderate and shape the culture. And the humans are doing this instead of outsourcing all this functionality to some profit-driven engagement algorithm hatched in a Silicon Valley soul extraction lab. The product is explicitly made to foster and coordinate and support offline relationships. It's really about finding your neighbors and doing stuff together instead of performing for followers you'll never meet. And it's pretty important that the business model is non-extractive. There's no ad tech, no VCs. It's built by a nonprofit. And they're seeking revenues to support the cost of this through sponsorship, through local advertising, and through member support. This Roundabout model from New Public contains a lot of hints and principles that we could apply to the AI companionship conversation as well, and really change the terms of engagement with this whole thing. I think when you rush to replace humans with machines, especially as a quick solve to loneliness, you create a lot of unnecessary risk. No one's like demanding this. You want to talk about a mismatch of supply and demand? We have an excess supply of AI solutions and a lack of demand for them to solve our actual problems. And when that happens, you see devastating consequences, especially for young people and all kinds of vulnerable people. We've all seen the stories of folks who have harmed themselves due to being pushed into some behavior by a chatbot. I want to confess, I'm not an advocate for, nor do I think it's even possible to unplug completely from all AI. But I do think we can unplug from this matrix-like vision we're being dragged into, where AI is always a substitute for human connection because it can be codified and quantified and monetized. We don't need AI friends nearly as much as we could use AI connecting us to our real friendships, the one that Zuckerberg hasn't already destroyed. I mean, imagine if AI could help us to connect with ourselves and connect with other people, to create deeper and healthier relationships, to understand some of the things we have in common rather than amplifying all the differences. There's a growing set of research and AI tools and applications that's doing just that. The therapy company, Talkspace, they recently posted about AI for couples therapy and tools that offer assessments before your session or communications coaching. And the most exciting thing to me, guided conversation prompts and journaling tools. I am so much less interested in what a chatbot can be as a spouse than in how it might help me better understand the spouse I already have. Brigham Young University recently published a study about AI helping in democratic discourse and conversations. The study included 1,500 participants who were put in opposing pairs to discuss an inflammatory topic, gun control. Now, the chatbot made suggestions for folks to restate or validate or even increase the politeness of their statements before posting. No one had to change their positions, but large majorities of people felt like they were heard more, and they were willing to extend more grace to their fellow humans. And in the direct case of AI as a companion, they can be helpful as a practice space. But the principle we need to keep in mind is that AI should not be positioned as human replacements in our relationships, period. So let me end on this. For social media, the trick was always to maximize engagement at all times. Eyeballs for hours and hours and hours by hook or by crook. And if the methods were underhanded, so what? Better to seek forgiveness than permission. Better to move fast and break things because I'm a disruptor and I'm charging ahead into the future and blah, blah, blah. And they always become caricatures in my head and talk like this because that sounds like their vision. But here's what you know to be true. We are living beings. We need so much more than to turn billionaires into trillionaires or to drive a chart up and to the right and drag all of us into oblivion. We need healthier relationships with ourselves, with other people, with Mother Nature herself. We need to touch grass, literally, and go outside and take walks and refuse to let this version of online become our total reality. I'm gonna invoke the 1900s one last time because I was born in the previous millennium and the Nintendo Wii, this gaming system that no longer exists, did something beautiful. Way back in 2006, before you started a new game in their launch title, Wii Sports, this screen would pop up and it said, "Why not take a break? You can pause the game by pressing plus." So I ask all of us, why not take a break? Let's all press that plus button and figure out a new way to play this game while we're working on changing the whole game altogether. And my call to you, of course, I want you to like, subscribe, and smash that comment button, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not Lord Zuckerberg. And to be really, really real with you, I don't need you to press any buttons on my behalf. We might both be better served if you took that sentiment and shared it with a real person in your life. So text a friend or a family member, call somebody, and just share anything that this brought up for you with them. And together, let's figure out a new way to play.